Welcome, Facebook, to another episode of Dental Speaker Institutes of our colleagues over the years. And I'm so excited, Katherine, that you're here tonight to share some tips with other dental speakers around their presentations. And before we jump in, I'm going to ask you to do your own little intro. Tell us a little bit about your story while I just double check my phone to make sure we're actually live. So I'm paying attention.
Good. Okay, good. Well, first of all, I have to say I'm super excited too. This is first Facebook Live for me, so this is super fun, and thank you for hosting it. Introduction for me. Well, the quick version would be that I come from dentistry, and about 30 years ago, that's hard for me to even say and wrap my arms around. I began training as a consultant, and for several decades, I had a dental consulting business, a full service consulting business. And along the way in that business, I realized that I needed to become a better trainer. I knew the information, but I didn't know much about how adults really made lasting change and how they interpreted and mastered new information. So I took about a 2-year course of study that started with a 2-day weekend, but ended up being about a 2-year course of study on adult learning and how the adult brain works. And that transformed my business. And from that, some colleagues took notice, asked me if I would put a course together for them, and I did, and that became a whole line of business for many years, about 8 years. So it's been a fantastic journey, and our company now, LionSpeak, is I've narrowed my focus. About 2.5 years ago, I narrowed the focus to strictly communications coaching, and that rebranded the company, and that has given us a whole new rebirth. I knew that decision was either going to be one of the best decisions I'd ever made or one of the worst decisions I'd ever made. And it's turned out so far to be a great decision. So we like to say that LionSpeak coaches in 3 separate lanes. One lane is patient-facing communications, so it's telephone skills and financial conversations and patient and client-facing interactions. The second lane we coach in is team-facing, so it's leadership conversations, leader to team to team, manager to team, those kinds of things. And then our third lane is audience-facing, which is what we're talking about mostly today, and that's train the speaker and train the trainer programs. So that's LionSpeak in a nutshell.
Oh, that's great, and thank you for that, Katherine. That was a very complete and brief introduction. that really encompasses, there's so much that it encompasses. I did put up here for those tuning in who'd like to know more about any of those areas, lionspeak.net is your website. And so that's available to find out more information there. Now, one thing we haven't shared is that you and I go way back. In fact,
we do.
The reason I'm in dentistry and working with speakers and consultant really is because you hired me to help you in your office back in 2001. I can't believe it's been that long. And we worked together for quite some time, for many years. And I remember when you created those workshops that you're referring to, the trainers and speakers workshops. And in fact, I sat through those more than once or twice. And I know that over the years, they've really continued to evolve. And I've watched you continue to learn more and continue to share more in the area of adult learning and how adults learn. And I was hoping that you could share with us maybe some newer techniques that you have recently, finally honed or come across that you feel it might be helpful for those who are listening in, for our speakers and consultants.
Sure. Some days you get, some days are hard in business, and some days you get great blessings that you're not even really sure why. And the day you walked into my office answering that ad was one of the great days of blessings for me, for sure. So we do have a long history, and I'm so appreciative of it. What's new? What have I learned? I've got a couple things that I have not only been teaching, but the teaching has come from me applying them in my own speaking and in my own training and workshops. One would be the mastery of something I call demonstration. In the past, I knew enough to teach something new, and then at some point before I moved on to a second piece of new information, to have people practice that, or at least work on it, contemplate it, discuss it. But what I realize now is I was skipping over a step, because there's something magical that happens when you teach something and you present new information, and then you demonstrate it live yourself before the audience, and then you turn them over to practicing it on their own or discussing it. It has been, I don't even know if I can describe the feeling I have from the front of the room, watching the audience completely shift into buying into my concept. So here's a good example of how that works. And I want to say that I'm not sure this technique of demonstration will apply to everyone's topic, but for anyone who's teaching verbal skills or verbal skills associated with their topic, it is beyond phenomenal. So a good example would be, let's say I teach conflict. I have a presentation called Courageous Conversation. So they're courageous conversations, whether you're having it with a child or whether you're having it with someone at work, or the leader and it's an employee, or you want to go to your boss, anything like that, a courageous conversation. So I teach them on how to have it. And I have found that if I have the audience members, if I say to them, what's a conversation you've been avoiding and you haven't had the courage to have? And they say, well, I've got this issue at work, or I have this issue at home. I say, great.
Oh, I think we've lost Katherine. I'm going to continue to speak for a minute. This is reality and live. There we go. I think we've got you back, Katherine.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I don't know.
Kept winging it for a minute.
I don't know what happened. It's part of living out in the country, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
So let's say I ask someone, what's a conversation you've been avoiding? And they say, someone will raise their hand and say, I have an example. And so they'll go to share it, and I'll say, well, I'd love to role play it, but I want to role play with a twist. And the twist is, I'm going to be you and you're going to be the other person. And I'm going to show you and all of you in the audience how I don't know what you're going to say. Just like in life, we don't know what other people are going to say. So you and I have never talked about this. I'm saying that to the audience volunteer. You and I have never talked about this, right? No. So what I want the audience to pay attention to is, I don't know what you're going to say, but what I do know is these techniques that I'm teaching really work in real life. And I want to show you how they do. And so we demonstrate in front of the group. And I think what happens with the audience is that they sense that it is unpracticed. It's different than a demonstration you've practiced with someone and then you sort of do the one-act play in front of your audience. When you do it spontaneously, and it's like you've socially proved that this information really works and is really viable. And so I just feel the audience shift into believing, and then they are so much more ready to engage in practice and discussion afterwards. So that's been a technique that I've really enjoyed. The other has been making sure that in the beginning I'm polling the audience somehow for what they know about my subject, or what they think they know, what they are sure they don't know, and what they'd like. And it helps fit voices throughout my presentation as we go along. Those have been two things that I've added.
How do you go about polling, Catherine? Are you saying verbally from the platform, you like have a show of hands, or do you actually use a polling software or text?
You could. It's one way you do it. The non-negotiable for me now is tapping into the audience early in my presentation to find out what they think they know about my subject, what do they want to know, what's the challenge for them, and then making the mental adjustments. So the mechanisms to do that could be a game, an exercise that you do to pull that out. It could be a polling software that you use to pull that from. You could pull it out in advance with surveys if that's the type of group that you're working with, that you can pull ahead of time. But somehow, early on, I want to know what is their relationship to my topic, so that I can make sure I'm not presenting my information in the vacuum of what I think they know and want to know, but rather actually what they know and want to know.
That's really smart. So we're doing that early in the speech, which makes me think, I noticed that, by the way, hello to Penny and Leslie and everyone who's watching out there. We've got a couple comments, and Leslie Canham is mentioning Catherine's my coach and saying some really nice things about the coaching. And Catherine's also my speaking coach. And talking about polling them early, or some of the things you do early in the speech, it makes me think about how, as we've worked together and I've tried to fine tune my presentation, you've been very helpful in showing me that there's a natural order, that things are best that they occur in a certain order. Pardon me. Could you share with us some other, maybe some openers and closers that you think would be important and impactful for most speakers?
Yeah, it's been said that audiences at the end of the day remember two things: how you started your speech and how you ended your speech. And so if people have limited time to practice, I usually advise that they really practice the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. And I have found, for me at least, that there is an order that works better than others. So in the opening, well, first of all, your opening needs to do two things, and really two things only. It needs to grab the audience's attention, like literally by their shirt collar. It needs to grab their attention from the moment you open your mouth, and it needs to foreshadow what's coming in the body of your speech. So when you're selecting how you're going to open your speech, you're looking for something that would grab people's attention and would foreshadow what's coming. So that could be a really amazing brand new statistic that really grabbed people's attention and sort of shocked them. It could be a really bold claim. One of my favorite examples of that was Harv Eker. I heard him years ago. He's the author of The Millionaire Mind. And I remember he was a very small, unassuming, not very well-dressed man. And when he walked out on this stage, I thought, oh, this is going to be a long 3 hours. And he waited for a second or two, and then he leaned into the audience and said, give me 5 minutes and answer 3 questions, and I can predict your financial future for the rest of your life. So that was a good example of something that grabbed our attention, drew us in, and made us think, and it foreshadowed what was coming.
A bold claim there.
So of course it could be a story. It could be a video. There's some things to be cautious of if you use video, but it could be. I've seen it done really well. It could be a quote, but it can't be a boring quote. It can't be a boring video that everybody's seen on YouTube. It can't be I heard a speaker in the last year use the statistic that, did we know that the ADA had done a survey that showed that 75% of Americans had some form of periodontal disease? And it landed so flat with the audience because it's such an old, overused statistic. I'm sure it's true, but it just wasn't, it didn't grab anybody. So if you're going to use those things, you have to decide, does it fit both of those requirements? So in the order of the opening, there's whatever you choose as your dynamic opening. But there's other things we want to do. We want to somehow thank our sponsor or thank the group for bringing us in. We want to maybe take care of a little housekeeping. How are we going to handle questions from the group? In some cases, they need us to talk about people getting their CE number at the end of the course and all these little housekeeping kinds of things. And so there's often a question, what do I start with? Do I get the housekeeping out of the way? Do I thank my sponsors and thank the meeting planners or the group for hiring me? Where do I put my opening story or my opening piece? And so the order that has really worked for me has been to start strong with my story or my statistic or whatever I've chosen, then quickly thank my sponsor and my host, and then move to some very strategically outlined housekeeping. So I have a cute little slide with a cute little young couple doing some housekeeping in their kitchen, and it says, a few housekeeping items. And then I list the things I have to that are kind of boring, but I also have put in there things like, I want you to know that what I'm going to give you today is a version of leadership, or it's a version of communicating, or it's a version of speaking, whatever I'm presenting on, that has worked for me and for many clients that I coach. I definitely know that it is not the only way to do leadership or speaking or telephone skills, but it is a way that has worked tremendously and brought tremendous success to me and many clients. So I just want to kind of get it out of the way up front that I know this is the only way. I don't think there's one right way. There's a right way for you as an audience member. So I put in little things like that in my housekeeping so that I set the tone for how this is going to work. I set the tone for how I'm going to handle questions. I want people to ask me questions. So I let them know up front. So here's the thing, Vanessa. I don't start with housekeeping. I don't start with coming out and thanking and commenting on the great weather outside or the bad weather outside, because none of that handles the two criteria, which is grab their attention and foreshadow what's coming. That's got to be your initial start. Once I get through that and I get through the housekeeping and the thanking of my host and sponsor, then I'm able to jump into my first point, my first piece. So that's sort of the order that's worked for me. I'll add one more thing to that, and that is that tapping into the audience. So often what bridges the gap between housekeeping and my first piece of content will be a check-in with the audience where I poll them to see what do they think they already know about my subject and what do they want to know. And that helps me then be armed with information that allows me to customize my presentation on the spot. Yeah.
Let me make sure I understand that. So the polling, where did that fall exactly, before or after or during the housekeeping?
Right. Usually it's the bridge between all of that those opening pieces and my first big book of content.
Okay. Very good. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
Then you asked me about closing. Mm-hmm. And I have a definite order for that has really helped me for many years. I think I did really well with opening my speeches and the body of my speech. I was miserable at closing. I was uncomfortable with it. I felt, I shied from it because it felt salesy, and I don't know, it didn't feel comfortable to me. And I think that's the case for a lot of speakers I've met. But I got some coaching for myself, and the system that I learned through that coaching has been invaluable to me. So what I learned from that coach was that amateur speakers just run out of time. They always have more information than the time allows, and rather than cut their content, they cut the close. And he taught me never to cut my close, that it would be better always to cut a little content and be absolutely to leave that closing piece whole. Mm-hmm. The three pieces to a great close, when I'm finishing up my content and heading into the close, the first piece is a summary, is a quick summary. So today we talked about, it's a high flyover, a 30,000-foot view of the 3 or 4 major points that you made in your speech. So it's a quick little summary of today we talked about. Then I move into a call to action. And the call to action takes two forms for me. One is, I've given you everything you need to know to be able to take this back and be better at telephone skills or speaking or communicating, whatever I'm speaking on. And I say, if you decide to try this on your own, my recommendation for your next step would be this. On Monday morning, do this and this. So basically what I'm saying is, there's one call to action that says, if you want to take all of this and try it on your own, your next smart step would be this and this. And I give them a task. Mm-hmm. And then I say, but if you'd like to get there quicker and with a little less curvy road and a little less trial and error, and you'd like some help, I would love to invite you to take advantage of a resource today or take advantage of an opportunity. And of course, that second call to action is about how they could engage with me. So what I love about that, and what I'm so grateful that I learned, was that you allow people, it takes the salesiness away from it, because you're saying, you don't have to buy me, you don't have to engage with me or hire me. I've laid it all out for you. I've left all the cards on the table. I've given you everything that you need to be successful at this. And if you want to give that a go, I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest cheerleader. And here's what you need to do. And it sets them free. And for those that say, yeah, but I just want some help, well, then you've made an offer for them to engage with you as well. And I think what's been really helpful there, Vanessa, is a real small step. I was saying early on when I did this, I was saying, here's how you engage in a annual program with our company. It was too big of a step. So I learned to give them just one step to engage with me, and it's very small. It's send us, an email, and we'll forward you an article that will be really helpful for you, or sign up for the blog and get to know us a little bit better in what we do. Or it's something very small, so that we can take one little step, and then, of course, what we're going to do is continue that conversation. And then the first piece is a summary. The second piece is those two call to actions. And the third one is to leave them just as you met them, on a powerful, inspirational, high note, a piece that grabs their attention and also says, I believe in you. You can do this. You should do this. You must do this. Whatever your content, but it is a turn the slides off, step into the crowd, and deliver the feeling of hopefulness and inspiration at the end of the talk. So those systems for opening and closing, I really don't mess with those very much. I'll mess with the content in the middle, but I get that opening and that closing piece down really pat before I step on the stage. And that has been so helpful, not just for my students, but for my business.
We're having a little trouble with our microphone. Are you still there, Ms. Katherine?
Yeah.
You're in a little feedback or something. Let me see if I can adjust here. Oh, seems to have gone away. Boy, that's really impactful. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
That's really impactful. There's so much good stuff in that. And it makes me think about how this is just the tip of the iceberg with your workshops. Yeah. There was one thing that you mentioned in there that I'd like to circle back to, and that was in the openers, and how you mentioned that you're presenting this as one way, not the way or the only way, but this is one way. And I would think that that would kind of help you with those in the audience who might want to point out at some point, that's not the way to do it, which leads me to, where I'm going, is that we've asked Katherine to join us and speak at our Dental Speaker Institute annual conference, Jumpstart 2019 in January, where she'll be talking about masterfully handling difficult participants. And I think in my limited experience as a speaker, I certainly don't have the years that you have, but I think that it's just inevitable at some point that we'll run into different type of challenges with our audience. And what I love is that Katherine's going to teach us how to, I believe, dance with that energy, you know, and not fight up against it, but how to handle it. And I was hoping that you could give us at least a couple little teaser tidbits about what you'll be covering in more depth in January.
So much of it's one of my favorite things right now because it really is a form of conflict, and it does take a courageous speaker and a courageous conversation from the stage. I also think all this stuff dovetails so amazingly together because people who are newer speakers or even speakers that are seasoned, but they're stepping up into a higher stakes game. Like I've been asked to do a big keynote, and that's a much higher stakes game for me. So it's funny, I'm no longer as nervous down here where I used to be nervous, but now at the next level, you know, so there's always a next level that will kind of get your nerves going. And I think our nerves spin around the idea that either we won't connect with this audience and they're going to judge us harshly. They're not going to laugh at the jokes. They're not going to buy into the information. They're not going to like me. And or something's going to arise and I'm not going to be able to handle it. You know, I'm not going to know what to say if someone pushes back. That's often why people don't pull the trigger on a technique such as demonstration, because they're afraid that may go wrong, and there you are with the kimono wide open on the stage, and you know you can't recover. So what I want to do at Jumpstart is give speakers a method for whatever shows up in your room, whether that's an audience member, or whether that's an AV failure, or like for me, not too long ago, I had the fire alarm go off 3 times in my presentation. 3 times. The entire room had to get up, leave the building, come back, get set, and I had to restart 3 times. And so, you know, if you do this long enough, things are going to happen that will be a challenge in the room that you weren't anticipating. And I think it's important that we have a method that we know we can count on, that we've mastered, that will not only allow us to handle it well, but this is going to shock everybody, allow us to actually look forward to the challenges, actually look forward to them, because we already are tickled inside that we know we're going to dance with it and we're going to do really well. We're going to gain some credibility. So I'm going to teach that. I'm going to demonstrate it in the room, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm hoping to change the mindset and reframe how we view as speakers, and maybe even as human beings, how we view conflict, how we view challenge, how we view our own ability to masterfully manage it and be courageous in our approach. And so part of it, Vanessa, that I can share right now would be when we feel the need to convince the other person that our way is the way, that our way is the right way, we are in a adversarial tug of war from the beginning. And so one of the tips that your attendees are going to learn at Jumpstart is how to not get into that position from the beginning. How to immediately come around on the other side of the fence and embrace their opinion, their idea, without losing credibility.
Yeah. Boy, that sounds like a good life skill.
Yeah.
Not just for our presentations. So that sounds great. Have a little bit of technical difficulty. I think Catherine's still with us. We'll be right back. So while Catherine's making her way back in, now's a good time to share a little bit more about Jumpstart 2019. Our conference will be in Chandler, January 3rd through 5th, 2019. I'm going to show on here the web address where you can find out more information. Katherine will be one of the presenters. They will have over a dozen speaker development content presentations with some of the best respected speaker development coaches in dentistry as well as beyond. And I'm really excited about the large amount of educational material that will be presented in January. You can find out more about, registering there. We do have an early bird special that's going to be for just a little bit longer. The code is early bird. We'll show that here as well. So the early bird, you just type in all capitals early bird and you can save $300. And that will be January 3rd through 5th in Chandler. And it's just a power-packed seminar. Katherine knows me in a typical Vanessa fashion. My phrase is 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. We're putting as much education in as we can. We feel like that's a real differentiator for Dental Speaker Institute, which is, of course, the idea behind Dental Speaker Institute is education and ultimately a curriculum and a chance to earn a professional designation as a professional speaker. So, Katherine, while we had our technical difficulty, I was just sharing a little bit about how you'll be speaking, and we have over a dozen other educators that will be chatting. So that was perfect. Gave us a chance to cover that little bit of housework. Apologize for the challenges we're having. And before we go, did you have more to add on that around the?
I think I'm excited to present that. I've got a very easy system for people to learn how to handle those challenges, whether it's from a participant or it's from other things. And it's worked so well for me. I can't wait to demonstrate it and teach it in the room.
Oh, very much so. I'm really excited too. I think that's what we're hitting here is a pain point, right? Because for so many speakers, especially newer speakers, is wondering, what would I do if? And so this will be great to have those skills to be able to pull out of your tool belt and be able to handle it like a pro. So thank you so much for sharing that content with us in January. And tonight you shared so many wonderful tips. I mean, really, this has been a power-packed Facebook Live session with lots of tips. Would you do me a favor before we go? And I'm going to ask you one more question, but I'd love before we go there, could you just share what are your upcoming dates for your Train the Trainer, your Inspirational Speaker, and I know you have a leadership workshop as well. Would you mind sharing those dates with us and a little information?
Yeah, so we do have a Train the Trainer and Train the Speaker. Both are 2-day programs. We run them back to back in November. So some people come to all 4 days and other people choose one or the other. The Train the Trainer program is really perfect for people who do workshops and trainings where there is an overt promise or an inherent promise that mastery about those skills or concerning those skills will come from your training. So if that's what you're promising, then you're really doing a workshop. And so the Train the Trainer program is perfect for that. If you want to present from the stage, then definitely the Inspirational Speakers Workshop is perfect for that. So those run back to back if you need both. They're in November. The Train the Trainer Workshop is the 5th and 6th, which is a Monday, Tuesday. And the Inspirational Speakers Workshop is the 7th and 8th, which is a Wednesday, Thursday. That will be held at my ranch in Southern California, which is about an hour north of San Diego. And then our leadership workshop is November 1st and 2nd, and it is held in San Diego at the Henry Schein facility in San Diego. And it is for business owners, individual professionals, managers, supervisors, or people who want to be in those roles. It's about the mindsets and the communication skills that great leaders need to run their company and to just show up as great leaders in their life and in their work. And it is a challenging course. It is a blast. We put people through some amazing leadership exercises, and they have told us that it has not only been professionally, life-changing, but it has made a difference in their work and at their dinner table. So that's been very rewarding for us. So we'd love to invite you for that. Those are our up 3 coming. Then next year in May, we're going to have a series of workshops in Ohio. And so I'm excited to bring some of these to a little closer to the East Coast. in May. That should be a good time. And then we'll circle back at the end of the year to San Diego again. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fun. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and show your website again, lionspeak.net, where I'm sure your materials available there for those dates and beyond. If you would like to reach out to Katherine for more information, Katherine at lionspeak.net. And her presentation at Jumpstart will be Masterfully Handling Disruptions from the Stage. We're really excited about that. And you can find out more information about the Jumpstart conference by visiting our website, our website, which is jumpstart.com, which is just love that domain name. So lucky to get it. So before we go, I'd love to leave with maybe a one-line bottom line, or if there's something that you would like to share with speakers out there that you feel would be really impactful based on what you're seeing in the industry and where you're helping your clients.
Gosh, if I had to say one thing that distinguishes great speakers from average speakers, it would be that they know how to connect with their audience. They know how to have a conversation from the stage, to get comfortable on the stage, connecting, and just to be authentic and have some fun within your topic and with that audience. I think when audiences feel like we love what we're doing, we love what we're talking about, and that we're loving the conversation with them at that moment, and we're really who we are on the stage and authentic. I think we have to do a lot of things wrong to mess that up if we get that right. So that would be I think, the distinguishing trait that really catapults the speakers to the top.
And how do we get there? Practice and coaching, pretty much? Is that pretty much the way?
I mean, certainly practice is a part of it, for sure. But I also think allowing ourselves, it's almost like the mindset of, I know this, and I just want to be here to help ease some of the pain in my room, some of the pain in that audience that they have around my subject. I just want to contribute something good and some ease around that for them. And I find that when I'm nervous and when I'm feeling like I need to be somebody else or something else, if I remember that, I get back into who Katherine Eitel Belt is and what she knows and feels passionate about in terms of her subject. And I almost instantly reconnect with my audience. So, being more conversational, being less tied to PowerPoint and more connected and tied to that audience and what they need has been really the distinguishing factor.
Perfect. Thank you for that point of distinction or differentiation around that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're at the end of another Facebook Live session. Thank you again, my friend, for being here today and sharing so much of your wisdom with us. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you being an important part of Dental Speaker Institute. Looking forward to seeing you in January, as well as over 100 of our colleagues, and growing each day. So we're very excited about the conference upcoming. And if you have any questions about anything related to dental speaking, feel free to reach out to info@the Dental Speaker. I'd be happy to connect you with any of our faculty members, as well as be able to try to help point you in the right direction. So thanks again. Have a great night. And until next time, be well.
Bye-bye.